Sometimes death is better.
I am the devil, and I am here to do the devil's work.
Demons to some, angels to others.
Do you want to play a game?
Here's Johnny.
The funeral is about to begin.
Never sleep again.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of 13th and Elm. It's your boy, Bill. I'm hosting this week. With me, as always, I'm with Michael and Rob. How you guys doing?
Hey, man, what's up?
Oh, I'm doing just peachy.
Glad to hear it. This week, the film is The Thing, the 1982 classic from John Carpenter. We've been doing these older classic horror movies these last couple of weeks, and I wanted to stick to it and thought that this would be a good one because I have actually never seen it, and Michael has not seen it either, and Rob said it's been a couple of years, so I thought, hey, why not? Let's hit The Thing this week, and guess what? We hit The Thing this week. Like I said, 1982, directed by John Carpenter, who is the absolute man. You guys know him. You guys love him. The Fog, Halloween, They Live, ETC. You know what that means, guys. It means etc. Because I can't even list them all. We do not have time. But he is the man. This movie stars another man, Kurt Russell, also the man, starring alongside of Wilfred Brimley, Keith David, Richard Mazer, T.K. Carter, David Clennon, Richard Dysart, Charles Hallahan, Peter Maloney, Donald Moffat, Joel Polis, and Thomas G. Waits. If you don't know, this movie is about a U.S. research facility in Antarctica. Decent group of guys, you know, they're good guys. We got some scientists and everything. They're out there doing research until their world is turned upside down because they spot a helicopter coming from a nearby base with some guys on it. They're shooting at a dog. They're yelling. They're landing. They're exploding shit. They're shooting other shit. It's getting really crazy. Turns out that they uncovered a spaceship way underneath the ice from over 100,000 years ago. And on that spaceship is no other than the titular Thing, which we do know can form into anything. And it is not very nice. It can be very mean. It can kill some people, as we saw in this movie. What did you guys think? First thoughts. First of all, when I announced this movie, were you guys excited?
I actually had never seen this movie also, as you mentioned, and I just don't know how that is possible. And as crazy as it was...
I hear that.
As crazy as it was to me, knowing that I hadn't seen it, after seeing this movie, not only is it completely unfathomable, it's completely unacceptable that I've never seen this.
I honestly agree with that. This is one that I've always known of, and I thought I knew enough about it from pop culture that I would just keep coming up, and I was like, I know the premise. Never thought of watching it. And then same thing, like, how could I have ignored this movie for so long?
No, I couldn't agree more with both of you. I have secondhand embarrassment that I have to do a horror podcast with two guys that never seen this movie.
And you just saw Texas
Wouldn't that
Chainsaw
be
Massacre for the first time, or
Wouldn't
what?
that be first-hand embarrassment?
No, secondhand.
Okay, like where'd
maybe
you...
second and third.
I wasn't embarrassed.
I don't really know, but no, this is a great movie. I've seen it a few times, 2 or 3 times. Probably a few years since I've seen it last. I was really surprised that you guys hadn't seen it, and I think it's a great follow-up to The Alien that we just did.
Yeah, definitely in the same wheelhouse.
Very much so, but more. We'll get into it, but like more action and like just more of everything. Sometimes maybe not what you want more of.
Fair enough.
But yeah, great pick.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. But yeah, so we open up with, I mean, it's so well shot that it's hard to believe if it's, I don't know if it's real or not, but we get that shot of the spaceship going towards Earth at the very beginning. And the effects.
I think that was real, actually.
Was that real? Was that the first moon landing?
Well, they didn't have the budget for that, certainly. Like, I mean, to fake it.
Their budget was actually insane.
Yeah, it
too.
was
So
pretty
There's a
nuts.
lot to talk about, actually, about the budget.
Well, we can say that CGI has improved massively over the decades.
Yeah, that's for sure. But you know what? This film didn't rely too much on CGI. This was a practical
not. This
effects
is-
film, and we'll get into that, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
I think the intro, and then there's one scene that kind of looked like claymation, but everything else, pretty practical.
I think
Pretty
claymation
practical.
would be practical, wouldn't it? Or are you saying it looked like claymation?
It looked
'cause
like
was
claymation,
CGI?
but I couldn't really tell. You know,
Okay.
it's a very quick, and then it goes back to like a model. And we can touch on that later. But yeah, Bill.
But yeah, I mean, we get Kurt Russell starting out at the beginning. He's just got that gorgeous head of hair and that beard, and he's playing chess against a machine
Such a good scene.
that I mean, it started out
It's
you know
chess master.
very fine. It was like, yeah, it's chess masters, whatever. But then it beats him, and he gets so mad that he just pours his drink inside of it and just
Yeah,
destroys the machine.
yeah. He basically like opens up a port and then pours
all
out a
the
glass
wiring.
of whiskey into it. This is
As
also,
though that computer's sole purpose
He-
is to play chess again.
he calls it a cheating bitch, and then he gets up and walks away.
Yeah,
And
it's the only female that we get in the entire movie is
Yep.
the voice
Yeah.
of that computer.
That is
That's
true.
Totally true.
And do you know who the voice of that computer was?
I feel like you do.
I read it but I don't remember. But let's hear it.
That film, or the film's only female character, was the voice of the chess machine, chess master, and that was at the time John Carpenter's wife who did the voice acting for that. And
I
yeah.
didn't know that actually.
her name is in my notes, and I'm struggling to find it, but it's Adrienne something French. She's a very nice woman, and she contributed massively to this film.
Oh,
Okay, I
she's-
ran out of. I'm looking through my notes and I can't find
I
it.
would have
Yes,
guessed
sorry.
Mrs. Carpenter.
She sounds very nice.
It wasn't Carpenter.
I also this trope of how the main character is just a drunk, and that makes him cool. Like
Oh,
he's
yeah.
constantly has a bottle of J&B
J
whiskey.
and B.
Yeah.
Oh, he's very much the Tom Atkins a la Halloween 3 in this film.
Yes. Good.
But also,
Good
if you're-
callback.
I mean, if you're working in Antarctica, I mean, you kind of need it to survive.
Well, he doesn't even need like proper like cold weather gear. He just has like the leather bomber jacket. That he's got that sweet hat, that Yosemite Sam hat that
What
we
else
can
do
get
you
into.
What else do you need?
I mean, he is a handsome man, and he's playing the same character that he plays in Big Trouble in Little China, and he's really similar to Snake Plissken from Escape from New York, and he's like a video game protagonist kind of, like his demeanor and how he's got a bunch of one-liners, and he's the one who always calms everybody down, all that kind of shit.
Right.
Adrienne Barbeau. That's her name.
Oh, well, thanks.
That's John Carpenter's
That's John
former
Carpenter's
wife's
wife.
name, Adrienne Barbeau.
What happened between them? Do you know?
They divorced.
Yeah, they are no longer together.
That's too bad. So yeah, one of the first scenes of action or any kind of plot or whatever you want to say in this movie really confused the shit out of me, knowing nothing about it, because it's pretty much a low-flying helicopter with a guy hanging out of it with like an AR-15 shooting at a dog.
And the dog's like running towards the other base. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
running towards the U.S. base, and it gets discovered, and they go out there, and it crashes, and there's guys just pop out of it, and they have grenades, and they're just throwing grenades.
They were dropping
and
grenades on the dog.
One
They're
of 'em-
trying to throw grenades.
One of them literally immediately gets off the helicopter, goes to throw a grenade, and drops it behind them like it's a slapstick scene.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
they're wearing big mittens, right? Or gloves.
I think probably gloves.
Yeah. So harder, it's cold. But yeah, it is a little goofy. And then he goes and tries to get out of the snow. Bad idea, Bo. Bad idea.
Yeah, that thing blows up and takes the chopper, and both the, I guess they're Norwegian researchers. Probably one of them was a helicopter pilot, but both the Norwegian researchers die. The helicopter is destroyed, and the dog manages to run back to the base. I mean, one of the Norwegian
One of them shoots.
guys is shooting at the dog for
And-
quite some time, and gets capped right in the eye by one of the American researchers.
Well, he shoots.
shoots a guy.
He
He
shoots,
shoots
is
one
it
of the-
Bennings, the redhead?
I think it is Bennings.
Yeah,
like
he
in the
shoots
leg.
Bennings in the leg because the dog is trying to weave between them and get protected.
He's not trying to shoot Bennings. He's trying to get the
no,
dog.
the dog. The dog is weaving
No, I'm
between
saying
and
he's
stuff.
trying
But
to
yeah,
get the
he's trying
dog,
to- he's trying to
and
hit
he
the dog.
does hit an American researcher.
And he's like shouting in Norwegian at them, about, like presumably about the dog in some aspect, and they just think that he's gone like cabin fever and gone crazy. And then he gets capped out the window by Gary.
Yeah, by Gary.
Who's the MASH-esque sergeant.
Yeah. This was a confusing scene for me as well. Just, I mean, obviously it's the opening scene. I knew some more was going to come, but this scene is a great opening after you have finished your viewing, I think, or at least for me.
Yeah, no, it definitely made sense at the end, which, I mean, is the most important thing. But yeah, you're going into it completely blind. Extremely confusing start to this film.
Then what happens?
I don't know, man. You tell me.
We go back into the research facility, and the Americans are talking about this, and they, I believe they have the body of the Norwegian. They're kind of like looking at him to see what's going on.
Yeah.
They're doing an autopsy, trying to see if he's drugged up or what the deal is. He seems relatively normal. And, I mean, the research facility is made up of the aforementioned actors. You have scientists, doctors, like kind of a team commander, the helicopter pilot who is Kurt Russell McReady, and, some other people who fill various job titles. But the decision is made that they need to investigate the Norwegian base. So McReady, Kurt Russell, takes... is it himself and one other, or maybe two others?
It's Dr. Not Blair, because that's Brimley, the other doctor. Shit. But yeah, McReady and
Copper?
And Dr. Copper, that's right.
Yeah.
Dr. Copper, they go. And I don't know, maybe you guys saw this in trivia or not, but the burnt down Norwegian base is actually the base they built and exploded at the end of the movie. It's the same building, because they built that entirely from scratch.
Oh yeah, the same set.
So they burned it down, and then they shot that scene.
Well, initially there was supposed to be a completely separate set for the Norwegian base, and they were running into some budget problems. We were talking about kind of the budget earlier. They ended up having an advising team suggest to use the blown-up base. It helped them save about $250,000 just because they had put so much budget into their special effects and the promotion of the film that they were actually quite a bit over budget. So they cut out some scenes. Benning's death, there was a much longer planned death for him, according to the storyboards, and they were going to build an entire additional set for the Norwegian base, but somebody on the team had the idea to repurpose the exploded American base. So they saved about $250,000 on that one.
Smart.
Yeah, they were pretty smart.
Nothing lost for it either.
No, and I didn't notice it until I read the trivia.
But yeah, they go to the base, and like clearly, not only, I mean, it's burnt down and everything, but they start looking around. There's like an axe like stuck in one of the doors, and blood all over the place and everything. And they basically come across a Norwegian who's like mutated, like he's dead, yeah. And then they come across the mutated like Two-Face, right?
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. So
That was great.
There's a guy frozen in his chair, and he's been like cut at the throat, but like almost decapitated, like huge slice in his throat, and obviously at least 3/4.
Yeah, this is definitely inflicted upon him. This was not like a suicide. Somebody cut this man to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they do find, the thing, and they bring it back to give to the scientist and to so he can have an autopsy on it and try to figure out what it is, because it's just a huge mass of,
It's hands mostly. It's like arms and hands. He's got a split face. It looks gross.
Yeah.
It is gross.
It's obviously a combination of many once living things.
Yeah, amalgamated. And this whole time when they're bringing it back, the dog is like standing on a bed, very still, watching them through the window. It is pretty creepy. Great canon actor also, Jed. Shout out to Jed.
Shout out to Jed, real quick aside here. Jed also appeared in White Fang and White Fang 2. He was he's a mix of a Malamute and a Vancouver Islands wolf dog. And they said that this was one of his first roles. The reason why, I mean, he had a pretty good career in Hollywood because he was adopted from a shelter by the cousin of Henry Winkler. I don't know if you guys read any of this, but the dog was adopted
lore.
by Gary Winkler, the second cousin of Henry Winkler, the Fonz, Arthur Fonzarelli. And that's how he got introduced to Hollywood and some casting agents. And they appreciated his, that he was a kind of wild feral breed. And that kind of, they say, and I don't know how much of this I buy into, but his mannerisms were not very dog-like because he's half wolf and he's like a wild animal or whatever. But I mean,
sounds racist, but
yeah, it kind of does. And he also had like 4 other major acting roles in his career. And this dog, by the way, lived to be 19 years old.
holy shit.
Yeah, this
Money,
is a
man.
big dog.
Money will, yeah, and it's
Maybe
all about who
takes
you
care of
know. It's all about who you know.
Yeah, I want to be adopted by Gary Winkler. Anyway, sorry to interject.
And to also live just about 19 years.
That would have been great.
19 years times 7.
Yeah, 19 in dog years would not be bad, I guess.
So so they bring back this morphed fucking thing, whatever you want to call it, and
thing.
I'd call it the thing.
well, yeah, you can do that. And they notice that like some of it is human, and like they're not sure what. And this, I think this is the part that has one of my favorite lines. Which do they bring back the other dead Norwegian, or do they separate them?
I don't think they show it in that scene, but later they're like talking about getting all the bodies to burn them, and I think that they have the decapitated or mostly decapitated Norwegian. I don't remember.
Because my favorite line in the movie is the scientist that does the autopsy, and he's done looking at a body and looks at everyone and goes, "Nothing wrong with this Norwegian."
Yeah, well, that and McReady always thinking they're Swedish.
Oh, yeah.
As well.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like a recurring joke. But no, because they're testing his blood to see if he was drunk or on drugs or something like that, and they're like, "No, must have been cabin fever." I don't know why. Yeah. And then Brimley does an autopsy, and this is pretty early in the movie, and you've already gotten a lot of close-up special effects, and they are
Oh my
well
gosh.
done, and they're gross. Like
Mhm.
they bring the body back, and it is like steaming because it's like warming up and stuff, right? Like the Two-Face body when they're looking at it in the snow, and then Brimley starts doing an autopsy. Oh, even before that. You get Binnings, and it's a small one, but he gets shot in the leg, and then they show like doing like sutures and stitches, which I like that little bit just to put it on camera. But they start doing the autopsy, and Wilford Brimley, Dr. Blair's like pulling out. He's like, "Well, normal kidney, normal lungs, normal heart, all the organs are normal." It's like,
He doesn't even have to cut them loose too. He's just scooping them
He's
out,
just
like they're
scooping 'em
just
out.
not connected to anything.
people are also being they're not quite freaked out enough for me, having seen this
No,
like basically
not at
eldritch
all.
horror, which it totally is an eldritch horror, and I will get into this deep a little bit later. But yeah, they start the autopsy and then basically finish it up, and the dog is being super weird, and they're all kind of speculating on what's going on, like the Norway camp or Norway's like 1,000 miles from here, and they're thinking, oh, maybe we're at war with Norway, maybe we're at war with Norway, and all this kind of shit, and then they start calming down. Palmer also is he's just a huge stoner. He's got like his Grateful Dead Vietnam jacket, and he's rolling like fucking ham legs, dude.
Just bad boys, dude. These are fucking cheabish bangers.
Not the scientist you'd expect to be at an Antarctic
I don't
facility,
know,
but
kind of. Have you ever met like biologists? They like to smoke a lot of weed, in my experience. But also, these might have just been biology majors at the University of Oregon. I don't know how many of them actually saw that degree
I
all the
think
way out.
most of them have doctors or masters. One of them is a helicopter pilot who's a career alcoholic, but aside from that, everyone else seems to like have some sort of advanced degree.
Oh, and you can't do that if you participate in recreationals? Is that
I'm
what
just
you're
saying they're not Oregon undergrad biology students.
Fucking shade.
No, that's fair. And they do put the dog. There's like a shit ton of dogs there, and they have the guy that puts the dog that was chased from the Norwegians
dog master?
into the cage. They have the dog master, which you need at any research facility, really, because he's going to control all the dogs.
The
The
dog, master.
Duh.
So, this is like our first point of of violence is when we see how that
This was fucking awesome.
it was pretty cool.
I was just casually watching this on my couch and just like, enjoying it and like just very much involved in the story so far. I was like, okay, cool. We're moving quick. We got some characters. This is cool. And I physically sat up and audibly gasped. I was like, oh, fuck. Like, we're in it. And this might have been the moment when I knew I fucking love this movie.
I mean,
wow.
even today, you see a lot of like horror directors, writers, whatever, don't do a lot of dead animals that are kept as pets. You know what I mean? You don't get a lot of dead dogs. You don't get a lot of dead cats. So like in '82, they slaughtered some dogs.
Oh my God, did they
It was
slaughter
a
some
dog slaughter?
It's like there's like 8 of them, 8 or 12, because a couple of them run out when he opens up the kennel, and the kennel thing is one of the best of the Thing sort of avatars, and it's so gross, and
I think that's probably my favorite. Is the first one that you see.
and also
Might be my favorite too.
Jed, just such a great canon actor where he's clearly he's a dog, but the way he's acting is not dog-like at all. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
He's sitting down very still. He's looking straight ahead. Like, I don't know. Like, it's subtle. It's not. It just fits so well.
He deserved a nomination in my opinion. But let's talk about this. Okay, so the Thing is kind of like an unseen force in of its like raw nature, and it only like assimilates and then replicates what its host is. Imitates, what its host is. And so it first attaches itself to one of these dogs. And the kill we're talking about, morph, whatever you want to call it, but it's a close-up of this dog's
Dog
head
massacre.
that from one moment to the next, it goes from being a normal like dog head to splitting open like a blossoming tulip and just ripping all the flesh. This is, you want to talk about wet mouth?
Its skull is like bare and then just falls off, and there's like a tongue stamen
Flapping
thing.
around.
Dude, it was so cool. This was great effects. We're going to get into it, I'm sure, but shout out to the special effects crew on this movie. I was watching it and I was like, who the hell did these special effects? This is so good. But Rob Bottin is the special effects director for this film. And quick fun fact, he also felt like he was biting off a little bit more than he could chew, and he wanted some consulting, so he brought in Stan Winston specifically for the dog and the kennel thing scene. So Stan Winston, obviously, we talked about Pumpkinhead, we've talked about Alien. He's another special effects legend. So you got Rob Bottin and Stan Winston both in this movie directing some of the special effects work. And oh my God, the makeup and everything. This was good. I loved this.
Because Rob Bottin, he was also 22 years old, if I remember correctly,
Yeah,
when he started working on this, which, is insanely young to work on such a...
Well, he worked with Carpenter once prior to this on The Fog, but then he's also done RoboCop, Total Recall, Seven, Fight Club, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Like, I mean, you're talking about some heavy hitters. Man, Seven has such good special effects and makeup, too. Damn, dude. I got to admit that I didn't know much about Rob Bottin or anything really about him at all prior to doing my research on this movie. And after going back and looking at his other credits, dude's right there at the top of the list for me. This guy is a bad motherfucker. The Thing, whew, boy.
I mean, this movie, in so many ways, is a very gross out, like, gore fest. It has more. It's more to it than that, but at its core, that's what it is, and that's why horror fans love this movie so much.
Oh
that's why we love this movie.
I
love
this
I do
movie.
love this movie. But yeah, it starts like split its face open and then shooting out these tentacles, like not only out of its mouth but like out of its
Everywhere.
body, and starts growing like spider lobster legs out of itself. And all the other dogs are freaking the fuck out, and they're getting sucked in and then dragged in and assimilated, and they start like morphing together in a very like you guys seen Acura, the cartoon? Yeah, very much like that, where it's like growing and metastasizing, and it's just so gross. It's so gross.
This is a gross movie. So good.
So it's doing all this, and it's making the Thing noise, a sort of like, it's almost like a locust or like a insect sort of noise going on, where it's, you know, transforming and like not just pretending to be another life form. And the dog master comes in and like freaks the fuck out and like goes and grabs everybody. And Kurt Russell has the presence of mind to be like, no, don't get near it. and then immediately they get the flamethrower and torch it.
So
That
many
was brutal, too.
flamethrowers.
It was trying to like climb up into the rafters and ceiling. It was like basically almost finished transforming, and they're able to burn the motherfucker.
It was good. This was a great scene. And we're what, 20 minutes in max? 15, 20 minutes?
25.
25, 30, yeah.
Yeah? Damn. That was good.
And then you get a second autopsy.
Yep.
You get another one. Bonus autopsy.
I love a good bonus autopsy.
Who doesn't?
Brimley, once again, Dr. Blair at the helm. And he starts understanding more. He's also had like more time. 'Cause this is a matter of hours, realistically, right? It's like that evening that this is happening. And he kind of finds out that all the tissue is dog tissue. Like all the bones look like a dog's bones, and the organs are dog's organs and everything, without doing any blood work or anything like that. And he realizes that it's trying to imitate other life forms. And then the dog master, Clark, is kind of like, he's not quite off, but he seems like, I don't know, just a little slow almost, or like dazed sort of. Like maybe he's like in shock. And he's talking to him, and Dr. Blair's kind of like, oh, how long were you alone with that dog? Like hour and a half?
Yeah, he seems to know very quickly that it could transfer from one thing to another. Because, yeah, like you said, he's immediately kind of accusing, like, where'd that dog come from? Like, how long have you
it was
been
out all
with
night?
it?
Like, you didn't put it in the kennel till just now?
Right.
And then when they were at the Norwegian camp, they find a bunch of like notes and also like video footage.
The video, yep.
And they start kind of going over that, watching like the black and white videotapes. Like, oh, how much more of this you got? 9 hours? And they start going through it, and then they basically see.
Of course, they find what they need immediately.
Yeah, within like 5 seconds.
9 hours of footage, but the first tape they put in.
And it's the Norwegians like finding the UFO and sort of celebrating and all this sort of stuff. And then they start like discussing the possibility that the thing is an alien, and I love Child's like reaction to it. This is voodoo bullshit.
Yeah.
What? What?
I mean,
Immediately, he says it twice.
yeah.
Almost one after the other. I ain't dealing with this voodoo bullshit.
Child's such a good character in this movie. When the time's appropriate, I'm going to completely gush over Keith David. I have a lot I want to say about him. And you know what? The time is now. Keith David, everybody, they know Keith David, whether or not they know it. And people totally might recognize him from The Thing. And obviously, he's one of the main characters in this movie. He makes, big impacts in many scenes. But I love Keith David. And I knew that I loved Keith David well before I knew I loved Keith David. That makes no sense, but follow along. So not enough people are familiar with his work, but he did probably what I was introduced to him first as, and I didn't know, but he plays Goliath and his evil counterpart Thylong on Gargoyles. He's the voice actor who does that, I was a big fan of that when I was a child. And then he also voiced arguably my favorite video game character of all time, the Arbiter, in Halo 2, 3, and 5. Of course, I had no idea who he was, again, even when I was subjected to this. And really the first time I remember seeing him, he played the role of Big Tim in Requiem for a Dream, if you guys remember that. And I was always fascinated by Big Tim, even though he's not in the movie much.
The drug dealer?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, totally.
Ass to ass. Yeah, it's fucked up, right? But that always stood out to me because he's like menacing and imposing, and he's just so evil, and he's got such a good voice. And it's no surprise that he would do more voice acting. He also did both Spawn and Al Simmons in the HBO series Todd McFarlane's Spawn. Another thing I loved when I was a child, had no idea until I started looking all of this stuff up. He's done voices in Adventure Time, Rick and Morty, Mass Effect. He was nominated for an Emmy for his narration on Ken Burns' The War.
Yeah.
He's the man.
His performance is, it's okay. It's a little inconsistent at points in this film, I feel like. One scene in particular comes to mind.
Is that, what is that? Or will we get to it?
We'll get to it, but we can just get to it now. When he's chopping down the door, like right before that, like his dialogue, I think he said something like, "Oh shit, man!" Like hits his hand against the wall, his fist against the wall, and starts chopping it. I don't know. Wasn't that great?
As opposed to what?
Oh.
How was that different from?
The acting in this film, it's not bad. It's not like melodramatic, but it's not particularly great. The characters are not very well developed. Like the only character they really develop is McReady, and he's just a drunk and kind of an asshole. And there.
I mean, I agree, but I mean, this is, as you know, it's the earliest camp. This is like, you know, the phrase that you've heard so many times on the show. This is a vehicle for violence. You don't really need. Like, I don't even remember most of these guys' names.
Exactly. It doesn't matter. And like none of them are developed, and then half the time after they like have started like having the cabin fever, not trusting each other, they like do the test and then immediately they're like, "Well, you go over there, we'll go this way." It's like, "Are you fucking kidding me? What? Why? You're like half of you guys are supposed to be scientists." I don't understand. Which is fine. It's not, I'm not saying that makes this a terrible film, because it doesn't. We love this film. But compared to other films, like compared to Alien specifically,
Yeah.
It's this definitely has some weak points to it, and the acting and some of the plot, not so great. But the special effects,
I think there's a lot
the
of
practical
parallels
effects.
to Alien, and I think that's
Yeah.
what makes it easy to compare. And there are definitely strengths present in Alien, and I think that there are strengths that are present in The Thing when they are immediately compared to each other. But I would definitely say that the acting falls a little short of what was accomplished in Alien, and
That's
I
fair.
do think that the characters were a little bit less developed, but I don't think they were necessarily underdeveloped for what was necessary to tell the story. And I definitely got a sense of more how the characters were pit against each other emotionally throughout this whole tale, because obviously it's a story more so, I mean, yeah, it's a vehicle for violence and a vehicle for practical effects, but this is at its core a story of like the erosion of trust and like what happens to those who are experiencing this in isolated circumstances. And I'm not sure that you needed much else, versus I think where Alien, everybody's kind of on the same page. They're more in a suspense and fear of the unknown, of the alien. And so it's a little bit of a different dynamic, and I would give the nod to Alien, but I don't think that the film suffers at all from the performances in this movie, and I don't think that the film suffers at all from perhaps a less developed character structure than is present in Alien. I think it's appropriately structured. Would be my assessment. I don't know if you guys agree or not.
I don't necessarily agree. I don't think you're wrong, though. I think that this is what this is. This is an intelligent slasher film and body horror film, and that's fine, and I like it, and I love it for that. I just think that, I don't know, like that's why Alien's a great film, and this is a great horror film. You know what I'm saying? Because like, would it improve the film drastically if we cared about the characters when they died? Not drastically. It probably would improve the film, though, if we cared enough, we were invested enough in some of these characters that when they do die, or where they do get assimilated, that there's an emotional response to it.
I mean, did you care too much about when they were dying in Alien?
I was just going to say the same thing. I don't give a
'Cause I
shit when
did
Brett
not.
dies. I don't give
You
a
didn't?
fuck when Palmer dies. I can't
No,
even
I-
tell you a
You didn't?
homegirl's name when she dies. Like, I really don't care.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's almost like the same formula as in, you know, the main character and the rest are expendable.
The difference, though, as we touched on when we did our Alien review, is that at the time you didn't know the main character, and it wasn't clear-cut, and I don't know that that's fair for us to sit at the vantage point that we have now, knowing Sigourney Weaver and growing up with that being such an iconic movie and
Right.
having the knowledge that we go into what was my first viewing of Alien, knowing what I'm knowing. And so it's hard for me to make that judgment because it's not something that I was ever exposed to. And in this movie, I didn't know that Childs was gonna. I mean, spoiler alert! Didn't know Childs was gonna make it like to the end. You know, I knew that Kurt Russell would be around, but I figured most everybody else would be expendable. And honestly, I didn't know that Kurt Russell was gonna make it. I thought there was a strong possibility that everybody dies, and maybe they did. We'll get to it.
We'll get to it. But even with the kind of up in the air ending, no, of course Kurt Russell's not going to die. Come on, no way, does he die? They're not going to kill. No, come on. I don't know. Just
I mean, what had he done before this? Escape from New York, and that's it.
They Live came out after this. Is like 88, and I think Big Trouble Little China was 85 or 86. I'm trying to think. I don't know his filmography that well, but I'm trying to remember what he was in. Yeah, probably Escape from New York.
I mean, he does. I'm looking at it real quick. Apparently, this guy was a child actor because his first film credit was in '63, and he was born in '51, and he's in about
He's in a shitload of
15 movies prior to this. But I don't know if any of them are really that important. And obviously, Escape from New York is. Oh my gosh, he was a voice in the what? Fox and the Hound. He played Cobber in Fox and the Hound.
We need to get into an IMDb hole.
No, we don't. But this was the first thing that made him relevant outside of Escape from New York. And I don't know.
But he's such a hero. He's not even a protagonist. He's a hero in the film. Like he does everything. There's no way they're killing him off.
I mean, they do a pretty good job at making you unsure because this may go back to prior knowledge. Because, I mean, like Michael had with Alien, like didn't really know, and just so, like you watching this the last time, you knew he wasn't gonna die. I mean, I wasn't so sure. They had me convinced when they found, you know, his ripped sweatshirt up in the fucking wherever they found it.
It is the crafty little alien, right?
I'm not. Okay, so we all watched it.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced he didn't die. In fact, I am of a strong belief that he
You think
definitely.
he's dead?
I think Childs was the thing. I think he was.
You think Childs?
I could see that.
Because you basically have an uninterrupted. There are a couple scenes where you don't see Kurt Russell, but most of the movie after the second half is all Kurt Russell running around, right?
But he is in close proximity on multiple occasions. I mean, he has the blood in his hand.
So cocksure of himself.
How could you not be?
How could you not be?
Because you don't know if you're the thing on that
unless you test it.
Unless you test it. One of the cool things about this movie, I don't know if you guys got this little Easter egg, is that when they were filming the scenes, obviously in the scenes where there was like a lot of body transformation and special effects, they knew. But in all of the dialogue scenes, Carpenter didn't tell anybody who was currently the thing. So like any of their like genuine looks of second guessing and distrust are kind of egged on from not genuinely not knowing who was supposed to be the thing in that scene. So I mean that's kind of cool. Little tidbit.
Cool, yeah. Because this does. We didn't really like get to how that started, but it turns out that this thing can completely, you know, emulate a person or whatever, and it very quickly turns into, I mean, a game of Among Us. I don't know if you guys have played that, but it feels very much like that, where this one person is an imposter, and there's no way to know except for testing it, which they did with blood. Which did you guys like that? I was kind of like on the fence because I did like that they had to like test the blood, but the whole heating up the copper wire with the flamethrower and then putting it into the blood, it was kind of goofy.
I like the end of the scene where like obviously, you know, when they find out who is and the transformation, but like you're saying, man, it's a little goofy, and it goes back to like fucking Kurt Russell's the hero. He doesn't need no fucking science to do this. He's gonna heat up a wire and stick it in the blood, like just like his old man used to back on the farm.
And I mean, Carpenter like admitted that he like thought of this idea because it was like a way to play on people's fear of AIDS at the time, with just the whole sense of you can't tell who has it just by looking at him. Like you have to test the blood, and that was like just a huge part of the social dynamic, like nobody trusting one another, not wanting to get close with one another. So, I mean, it makes sense. Kind of shitty, but
I liked it.
If it works.
I liked it. They only put a little bit of exposition in there, but it made fucking sense. Just take it for what it is and move along, and like it set up some really good character drama, I feel like, especially like when everybody's tied up and there's the anticipation of testing the blood one by one, and if they're all in these little petri dishes with their names like labeled on it, like it's good.
It was great.
And the whole idea is not that hard to comprehend. Like, although this organism is completely separate from the entity in which it's trying to replicate, and you know it's going to preserve itself. It has that innately in and of its
amount
nature.
of live cells,
right?
Yeah,
and you know, blood is full of live cells, and it fucking recoils from a threat, and this threat in this case was heated up wire. And now it was pretty convenient that they had come to that conclusion rather quickly, and that it was the helicopter pilot who figured it all out. But fuck it, you know, I don't care. I'm not watching this movie to get that out of it. And
Oh,
what
for
I was
sure.
watching it for, I got completely out of it. And if that was a quick bridge, I'll take it all day. I loved it.
No, it's and then they're all tied together, and it's Palmer, right, who starts transforming. 'Cause isn't he the blood that jumps out? He's tied up on the end.
Um,
I
it's
don't
either
even remember
Palmer or
the names,
Gary.
man.
Palmer's
but,
the pothead.
yeah. They
'Cause-
both turn. I just can't remember which one. No, it is Palmer because Gary turns prior to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one quick, well, not a quick note at all. One long note about Palmer. When they're still discussing like whether this has been an alien, and they're talking about like how deep the ice is, like it's been buried for 100,000 years or tens of thousands of years. Palmer's just like leaning back, like lighting a roach, and he's like, "Chariots of the gods, man. They taught the Incas all they know." Fuck you, Palmer. God, if there's one thing that gets my ire up, it's that ancient aliens horse shit.
That's the one thing.
It's among many things. It's definitely one of the top things, though.
I don't know. I feel like at the time it certainly wasn't like Giorgio Tsoukalos and History Channel presents this as a
Doesn't
possible fact. It was kind of like more of a fun Easter egg for the nerds who out there reading Graham Hancock. And I don't think that many people fucking really would have gotten it to the extent that like it's memeable in today's culture. And it was literally a quick aside. Like
No.
it wasn't that big of a deal.
Hold on. Chariots of the Gods came out in '68, and for conspiracy theory, it was pretty big.
Right.
And
okay, but conspiracy theory is a highly acute subsection of society.
However, and it has staying power. However, what I'm getting into is that Chariots of the Gods is a big ripoff off of a lot of stuff that Lovecraft wrote, like specifically The Mountains of Madness, which has a very similar plot to actually The Thing as well, where some explorers from Miskatonic University go to Antarctica and basically climb up a bunch of mountains that are bigger than the Himalayas and find like an ancient elder gods city. And they end up finding like murals and hieroglyphs, and all the elder gods basically created humanity, and all the like tidbits and cells they left behind became like all of life on Earth. And so I'm just going to tie this around that In the Mouth of Madness is based off of Mountains of Madness, and it's the third movie in Carpenter's Apocalypse trilogy, where The Thing is the first one, Prince of Darkness is the second, and Mouth of Madness is the third one.
Well, do you think that it's at all an intentional little tidbit that Carpenter's put
Probably.
in? Because Carpenter is a like self-professed huge
I'm-
nerd, and he loves to put little Easter eggs in his movies.
I'm not mad at Carpenter. I'm more mad about the character of Palmer bringing this up and being like, "Oh yeah, man, totally. They taught the Incas everything they know."
Well, Carpenter's also the fucking pothead. Like he's the irresponsible one. If there's supposed to be a character that's doing this, it's totally supposed to be him. He provides like the limited amount of comedic relief that's in this film. And I don't know. There's
Well,
something.
Knowles does too.
I think that ages more along the lines of racism than it does comedic relief. But okay, so when they were casting for Palmer, they actually had Gary Shandling and Jay Leno reading for those. They had strongly,
Not imagine Jay
they had
Leno.
strongly considered casting Jay Leno in that role, but they
God, it
ended
would have
up
been such a better movie.
they ended up not going with that because they feared that he couldn't pull off the straight
The
parts.
straight part,
and,
yeah.
And you know that makes sense. But what I'm saying is like, of course you're gonna take the guy. You already discredited him for lighting up these newbies early
Well,
on, and
I'm
it's like
just
you're
saying-
supposed to discredit this fucking
I
bullshit.
understand
it's more
that.
of an Easter egg than
Hey,
anything.
I'm not mad at it. No, you don't like. I'm conflating my intense dislike of that theory and the conspiracy theory with it being in the film. It's more like, fuck you, Palmer, you're full of shit. Because a lot of it, especially when he says they taught the Incas everything they know, is that clearly these ancient brown people could have not built these giant buildings. It must have been aliens. That's the only other explanation. Egyptians, Incans? No way. It was aliens, man.
I mean, I definitely understand what Rob's trying to say here, because it's frustrating knowing that there are people among us. I mean, I know some people that like believe
Straight up
in that
believe
kind
this
of
stupid
So
shit.
even though it might be a little Easter egg, whatever, the people that believe in that are watching this and they're like, oh, finally, like someone else understands, and this is like
But
he's
it's also
representing
providing
me.
us the opportunity to be like, fuck you, Palmer. Which I
True.
mean, you were just criticizing this for the lack of character development, and like little things like that can give you an insight to the
That-
psyche of the people that are making up these characters.
Okay.
You disagree with that?
No, you're totally right.
Fuck you, Palmer.
No, I like that there's a lot of tie-in to Lovecraft and just the cosmic horror aspect of this. Like a lot of it, where normally it would be you see the creature and you start going mad just by knowing that it exists. But these guys are going crazy in almost a cabin fever way because they can't trust each other. But there's a serious like extraterrestrial threat that's driving all of this because they don't know who might be infected. Or there's like a part where McReady has the flamethrower outside and he's like, well, I know that I'm not the thing, and I know that some of you aren't either because otherwise you guys would just attack me. And so there's like some deductive logic that's going along as well. But you've got all this like gross assimilation, and like this thing doesn't really have like it's intelligent, but it doesn't really have like any weaknesses, and it's just going to keep coming and coming and coming until
you can seemingly kill the vehicle it's occupying, and it's just going to jump from
East Coast things.
Yeah, there's not much you can do, and you never really figure out how you can do anything in the film.
Which is why there's a sequel.
Which is why there's a sequel, and the ending's left ambiguous. But just the cosmic horror aspects of not just there's tentacles and there's an alien, but sort of the madness and the distrust and like the inhumanness of it is well done. That's all I want to say. Fuck you, Palmer.
Yeah, fuck Palmer.
Fuck you, Palmer.
I agree, and I'm so happy it wasn't Jay Leno.
I don't know, man. That could have been good.
I mean, if it was going to be one of the two, Gary Shandling was the right choice.
I don't know who that is, but I would still take him over Leno.
Actually, my grandfather
I think
dated
they've,
a
like, Lulu
woman who
both
looked
yet.
like Gary Shandling.
Have you guys seen this? You heard about this? It's a thing over here. It's
Have you
killing
heard
all
about
of us.
this? Oh my god, it's like the thing.
I don't know. Anyway,
Not my best.
It's killing all of us over here.
yeah. So, fuck, man. There's so much to jump in on this movie, and the plot is not necessarily thin, but I mean, we kind of covered it. Like, really, there's a thing, and it's jumping from host to host.
That's like a great part of it, though. It's like it's not.
Well,
It's aware of itself. It's not. It doesn't try to be anything that it's not. It's like this is what it is. It's a thing that wants to kill people, and it can become anything. Boom. It doesn't really need anything more than that, which is one of the things I like about it.
I do like a lot of the like research scenes. I love like old computer.
Oh my
scenes
god!
and
You
stuff,
know,
dude.
you already know. I made a note and was dying. I mean, any scenes
Assimilation
interacting someone
complete.
talking with a computer at this time is just so fucking hilarious. Like it computing the like the likeliness of them living.
I love it. It was like around 75%. That's good. That's good. It can only work in complete fractions.
Completely unquestioned at the time, too.
Oh well, not that like sci-fi horror movies we watch have outstandingly realistic computer scenes. It's all people like typing on screens. I'm into the mainframe, but this on its own merit is just funny. It's funny. We like it.
It's so great. I love it. It's nothing you can really get upset about.
No, not really.
And it doesn't, they never make it so much that it has to do with the plot as much as it ruins it for you or anything like that. So.
But one thing I do like about this, like on the same lines of Alien, is that the set design here, when we're talking about like the technology and the computers and the research facility, it does also feel like it has a lot of utility and it is occupied. And then you have the whole sense of like, I don't know, there's kind of, you were saying, you criticized a little bit and juxtaposed to Alien. How could you not? I'm not throwing shade, but like talking about how this isn't quite as good of a film. It's more of a good horror film, but some good cinematography utilizing the set and like
totally.
Like
Absolutely.
the low ceilings and the piping work and all just the clutter. It feeling like it's very much lived in. It kind of gives you that sense of claustrophobia that you can't escape this thing.
Yeah,
but
it's like
then immediately you get these outside shots outside of the facility, and it's like the huge open isolated vastness is like
It's just
so
like
even if you
space,
could get
man,
away,
you're gonna fucking die.
yeah, you cannot get away. There's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to hide. And that a lot of that remind me of Alien. And I don't think there was an accident.
No, not at all.
No,
Not at all.
I mean, Roger Ebert called this an Alien ripoff when it came out. So,
Well,
which I don't agree with, but in some ways I know what he's talking about, and it is more like cinematography based, like shit like that.
yeah, because like right now at this time, there is nothing hotter than like space sci-fi horror. Because I mean, we're talking like within the last 5 years, we've gotten A New Hope, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Empire Strikes Back. Now you have The Thing. You had Alien. There was also this same year, 1982 came out. No,
Not yet.
1982 also saw the releases of E.T., Star Trek II, Blade Runner, Tron. Like the whole idea of
It was hot.
yeah, and I mean, so one of the quick fun facts about this movie is Stuart Cohen, who worked for Universal, approached Carpenter in '76 with the idea of doing a remake of The Thing from Outer Space, which is the film that this was inspired by. It's kind of like a loose remake, and that was obviously inspired by the novella Who Goes
I'd
There.
say both of them are based off the novella, right?
Right. That's John W. Campbell, 1938. And Carpenter at the time was unknown, 1976. And he said, man, I really appreciate this, but I cannot do this. I am currently tied up in a project I'm working on right now. That project will go on to become Halloween. So they wanted to make this film with Carpenter. He said no. They were really adamant about pushing this film through, so they shopped it out to a couple different writers. The first script that they actually had submitted to them was written by Toby Hooper and Cam Hinkle because of the success of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And the studio hated the script. And they said, we're not going to go with this. And they shopped it out again. And they ended up getting another script submitted to them from John Landis from American Werewolf in London fame. And they ended up not liking that script either. So they completely shelved the project around like 1978, 1979. And they just said no. And then Alien came out shortly after this. And they were like, fuck, we got to cash in on this. Because I don't know, who did Star Wars, like 20th Century Fox, and then Alien was a different production company, and Universal's like, we got to get our fucking hands into this space, alien, sci-fi, horror genre. It's great
so hot right now.
Exactly. And so they reapproached Carpenter again in like 80, 81, and he was available, but he had also experienced some success with Halloween, The Fog, Escape from New York, and he said, fuck yeah, let's do it. And when he saw the budget, he couldn't turn it down, even though he was a little reluctant at first because he's such a big fan of The Thing from Outer Space, he didn't think he could do it justice. And if you guys recall, I don't know when the last time you saw Halloween was, but when Laurie Strode, Jamie Lee Curtis, is babysitting the children on Halloween night, they're watching a horror movie marathon. And there is like a maybe like a 15-second scene of them watching The Thing from Outer Space. And part of that was because during his time at pre-production, when he was approached by Stuart Cohen about doing The Thing, he was like, oh, man, I love The Thing. And so he put it in one of his movies. And that's what I was going on with that H.P. Lovecraft stuff, is he loves to put little Easter eggs of the things that he loves in his movies.
Definitely.
Sorry for the quick little rant, but...
No. One other thing that I think maybe I never noticed this before, but having watched this a couple times, and maybe you guys picked up on it right away because you're both so much smarter than me, but a lot of like stage fade to blacks.
Yeah.
Like straight up like turning off like an overhead lamp or something. And a lot of times where
Just
they're like a question, they like ask someone a question then fade to black, which I never remembered that in the film.
It's very old school, and especially the very first one you see, I think I probably laughed out loud. I was like, are you kidding me? And it was a thing that the editor wanted to do it, and a lot of people were like, no, like you can't do that.
Dad,
Carpenter,
no, please don't do that.
but Carpenter liked it and opted to keep it in, which I don't know if it needed to stay in. I certainly don't think it ruins anything, but it didn't need to stay in. It doesn't add anything for sure.
I guess I can't call it distracting if I've seen this movie like 3 times and I just noticed it now. But
I definitely noticed it. We noticed it.
It was a little weird. And we talked about the Benning's death. Like that death scene was supposed to be like way more extended. They have to cut it because of the budget. And that's probably one of my favorite ones. Maybe because there's so much gross and special effects going on that like the kind of like I don't know. And that screech.
Is that the death with the defibrillators?
No. This is where he turns.
Okay, because that's my favorite.
I mean, no, all those are great, but like where he's on the ground and outside, and they've all circled him, and he turns and then screeches. It's an iconic scene for sure. And he's got the weird hands and stuff like that.
Yeah, it is really good, and it led to some pretty cool like alternative movie posters, like those hands. God, I love that. That is really cool.
But yeah, the defibrillator scene where he's like doing CPR.
I might have stood up and cheered.
He was like, yeah!
Because I just did not expect at all when he goes clear, and then the stomach just opens up and he goes through it.
Both arms at the elbow, basically.
And and then his arms are just cut off.
God, that was such a cool
that was so
and
great.
That led to, and the coolest thing about that for me, that whole scene is like that was just the beginning of what becomes more
of that
iconic
kill of the scene.
Yeah. And then like the special effects and the makeup and all the practical work that they did there, has become iconic, and I didn't know this was going to happen immediately then, but I mean, I've seen The Thing in so many horror movie documentaries, pop culture, all the other different ways it can get in front of my eyes, and definitely the scene of the head on like the end of like the spindle protruding from Homeboy's body is maybe the most iconic like still frame from The Thing. You know what I mean? Or among them at least. And there's so many because this film is just full of iconic scenes and practical effects mastery that. But when I saw that, I was like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit.
Well,
it was like it just kept building on
keeps
itself.
building,
Yeah,
and it doesn't. Oh man, each one of them is so different too. I mean, there's definitely common themes and stuff, but man, so many good kills. They just keep coming. Like you're like another one, and still I think the dog might be the best out of all of them.
Oh, it just hits you
That's
so
definitely my
hard.
favorite, all
It's
those
so
mouse stuff, yeah.
like, it's so sudden, and it's the first one. And like, I didn't know, and I know everybody says that like this is a excellent film if you like practical effects and yada yada yada. But when I first saw that, I was like, whoa, we're in for it. And I think that's why I love it so much, is because it just, man, the first time I saw it, which was just a couple nights ago, but I mean, the first time I saw it, I was like, God damn, that was cool.
Yeah, in every sense.
This is like why I love horror. Like, this was awesome.
Well, I also like that every time it starts like surfacing and attacking them, like everything is quick. Like it starts mutating immediately. Like if somebody dies, there's a scene where Windows gets, when he is like bitten by the thing and like by its head opening up and stuff, which might be the one you guys talked about.
Yeah, same scene. Yeah.
And he gets thrown against the wall and is like dying, and they like go outside and come back, and everyone that's still tied to the chair is like, hurry the fuck up, hurry, because he's starting to like mutate like there, like it's like 15-20 seconds or you're gonna get fucked.
Yeah, this movie does not waste any time.
Well,
You think it was a little too long?
no, I don't think it's a little too long. No, but like I think that there's a whole plot of it like trying to steal parts to build like Blair or Dr. Blair once he gets like thrown in the shed for being crazy. Where there's like stealing parts for the ship that I felt like, I don't know, it didn't really need to be there. Like it didn't detract, but it didn't really add to it. Like I feel like you've got enough going on in the story that just with it changing people and like the power going out and everything else, like I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, otherwise you have him isolated in this shack, and then you could open the door and you put a bullet in his head, or you torch him with a flamethrower. The whole idea of him stealing the parts from the chopper gives you that like one moment, and it's another moment in the film where it's like, where is he? He's gone. He's not where we previously locked him in his little jail cell in his shack. And then they go underground, and then you get some cool like special effects, and this power struggle between McCready and Blair. And anytime you get like gratuitous Wilfred Brimley, I'm all about it. So I didn't know he was in this movie.
Sans
actually.
mustache.
Yeah, and it took me a little while to realize who he was until I started hearing him talk a little bit more, and I just looked like his body and his gait, and I was like, dude, is this diabetes? Diabetes. That's what I mean. A lot of the younger Elmers will know him from that, but I mean, this is a film that helped his career.
I watch this on Prime, so anytime you pause it, it'll like tell you like who's on the scene like immediately, like which actors and stuff. I guess mine does.
Oh no, it does.
But
mine doesn't do that.
Shout out Jeff Bezos.
Shout out to Bezos, you piece of shit. You should go to space and never come back.
Wouldn't it be cool if Jeff Bezos brought back The Thing?
Would it be cool? Because we'd only have 27,000 hours before all of the entire globe was infected.
I would more so
what are you
enjoy.
living for, really?
I would
Not much.
Does anybody here have kids?
Not that I know of.
Fuck it.
I'd rather get mutilated from the thing than get a fucking job. Am I right?
Yeah, I hear that.
Did you guys like how much? There's a lot of dynamite at this particular research facility.
Oh my God! Why did he have
And
so? Well, I
The
mean,
amounts of gasoline and
kerosene for like the snowmobiles and
makes
stuff.
sense,
Sure.
but there's still a shit ton.
Well, they're there for all winter. They're there for like they're stuck there basically for like 8 months.
and I was kind of
Fuck
thinking
you,
this
there's a
too.
shit ton.
But
That's a
this is
lot.
even though it's like a
Dynamite?
science research
Well,
facility.
they were there for
it's
a
like,
long time.
So they need all that dynamite.
You never know.
Well, even though it's like a science research facility, I imagine any sort of American-funded research project on Antarctica is going. No, it's going to be like, especially in the 80s, like we're talking about like.
We were at war with Norway at the time.
Well, no, but we're talking about.
That's what I heard.
Like military industrialization, and just like I'm sure they were writing blank checks. Now, if this was a school system, yeah, I'd be like, they're not gonna just give you all this dynamite, but like. this is taxpayer dollars. Like this is funded by
Give
the
'em some
government.
dynamite.
Buy it by the pound, homie.
Yeah, if you can find some cool alien, subspecies to be weaponized to kill, the commies, then take however much money you need.
I mean, they could have just. I mean, because the Norwegians had to use it to get access to the spaceship, right? So maybe the research facilities were first out there to look for spaceships under the ice, which of course you need a shit ton of dynamite for.
Yeah. Or just getting into ice for like core samples and stuff like that, or aliens,
Well, spaceships, yeah.
or spaceships. One more thing about that, like where they're taking their blood samples and then hit it with a hot wire. They use a scalpel. Everyone slices their thumb open.
Huge gashes, too.
And then they're just wiping it on their shoe before they pass it to the next person. That, whoa, man. Okay.
Also, your thumb.
yeah.
Why
That's something
not,
you use.
Yeah,
Why
all the
not
time.
your
All the
fucking
time.
arm?
What? Or why not use a
Boom.
needle? Why not use a fucking syringe?
They don't have needles in there. They just had dynamite,
Just had
kerosene,
dynamite
flamethrowers.
And one scalpel between them all.
They might as well just blew their fucking hands off with the dynamite. Yeah, they did huge gashes in their fingers.
They filled up the entire bottom of a petri,
Petri dish,
with
which
like
is-
3/8 of an inch of blood,
Yeah. No, this was this was
and
probably
then stopped bleeding.
Yeah.
they all
no,
stopped
They all
bleeding.
they just held it.
Yeah,
Yeah. They just held their thumbs.
Pinch.
Yep. That was funny to me. If we're gonna poke holes in that scene, that was funny.
That's the biggest one.
I mean, I don't know. So let's talk about it. We've taken Dr. Blair, who is the first one to kind of suspect that this is going to be a problem for everybody who wants to start isolating people, who wants to start killing people, really. And they put him in the other shack. Then there.
Well, he starts he
goes crazy.
He goes
Yeah.
ham on those radios.
Yeah, he's destroying
radio.
everything. Yeah, ham radio.
That was a joke. Yeah.
I know. Just in case you didn't get it.
I don't know. Whatever. Fuck it. Take it over from here.
What were we talking about?
I don't know. I'm just trying to, get to the
The radio.
to conclusion of this without missing any key points, because a lot of what I want to talk about is just we haven't even got to. I have so many little fun facts about this. Believe it or not, I got more.
Get to it.
Oh man. Well, I want to wrap up the plot synopsis a little bit here first. So McReady goes down into the shack's cellar, the subterranean part of the shack, where we find Blair, who's been constructing an escape vehicle from the misused part, or the stolen parts of the chopper, which was previously destroyed, and now we know why. And we get another cool ass transformation scene, and McReady kills him, and blah blah blah. At this point, everybody's died. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch the movie because it's a fucking masterpiece. Anyway, so we're down to Childs and McReady, and if you guys don't mind, I'm just gonna jump into the ending here.
Go ahead.
All right, so Childs and McReady are kind of at odds here with each other, because one of them now is the Thing, and it's just these two. And they've kind of been at a power struggle to see who is going to be leading this group the whole movie long. And they're outside. They've burned down pretty much every shelter that they have. They've killed all of their comrades. They are now face to face with each other, and they don't know if it's them or if it's somebody else. And to me, you can call this overstating. This is one of my favorite endings in cinema history. I did not know this was going to happen like this. I absolutely loved this. I love wanting more. This movie ended at the perfect time. But basically what I just described to you is the end of the movie. I mean, they take a couple pulls of J and B, and they stare each other in the eyes, and they just roll credits. Nobody finds out who is the Thing. We don't find out if they live or die. Obviously, they're outside in Antarctica with limited supplies and no shelter. They're both going to die. Nobody's coming to get them. But how that happens, we're unaware of. I loved it. One of my favorite endings ever. What do you guys think of it?
I liked it. I think one of the best endings, one of your favorites. I think that's definitely a stretch. I thought it was just a typical ambiguous trying to set up a sequel kind of ending.
Is there a sequel? You guys said there's a sequel.
Oh, there's a sequel.
Is it the 2011,
No, I think there's a thing too.
I don't think there is.
Am I making that up?
I'm thinking that you are.
Did I make that up?
There's a spiritual sequel, but it has nothing to do with the movie. I don't know if
Is it called The Thing too?
No, it's not. It's called Prince of
No,
Darkness.
it's a 2000. Well, sure, but there's a 2011
reboot.
reboot that is a
Yeah, not
completely
talking
different
about
thing too.
that. I
But
thought
there's
there
definitely
was
not
one.
The Thing 2. I mean, if Google is anything.
It's not. Google's wrong. I'm right.
Okay, I'll take it. But
Take the L.
yeah, and I mean, if they would have came out in 1985 with The Thing 2, The Thing Lives, and fucking
The
Electric
Thing-a-ning.
Boogaloo, I would have been like, I would have liked it less. But no, that was great. I loved it.
Yeah, no, this is a great. Yeah. The ending. Oh no. Yeah, I don't know. It could have been worse. It could have been a happy ending. I wouldn't have liked that. But I don't know. A lot of the end of the movie, especially when they start going through it and blowing it up and like the kerosene and everything, it's a really cool sequence. Really good practical effects with the explosions and destroying the base. But it felt just more like an action movie. And then it's like, oh yeah, we split up for no reason earlier. Now we're back together again. We don't know which one's which. But the ending itself is fine. The dialogue, they're like, oh, it's gonna be a minus 100 degrees soon. Well, what do you think we should do then? Well, I guess we'll take a couple pulls of this and wait for a bit. Fade to black. I don't know. I wasn't in love with it.
Man, I don't know. I just there's things that I look at in movies that are just a little bit different, and like I just am viewing this like a storyboard, like a graphic novel. You know what I mean? And like if I was reading this and it was a graphic novel, it would have been brilliant. And like sometimes I get sucked into that mind frame of viewing film, and like don't get me wrong, I love well done cinema that actually utilizes the medium, and I think there was parts of this film that did that. But to me, it's just the story that I like, and the ending was great. Like if it was the last 2-3 panels on this graphic novel that I'm reading, and it's just like, what do you think we should do now? It's going to be negative 100, and they're just drinking some whiskey together and not trusting each other. End comic, dude. Fuck yeah, I'm all about that. So I mean, yeah, from a film standpoint, it could have maybe been stronger, but from like a personal enjoyment standpoint, loved it.
Yeah, I'm being nitpicky. That's what I do.
And I think that that's fair. We need that. We all bring different things to this, and I know that I romanticize things that I love, and I bastardize things that I hate, and there's very little in between for me. And so you're never gonna hear me say like, I don't know, I thought this was a pretty good ending. I liked a lot about it. There's some things that no, it's either the fucking best ever or I was dog shit. That's how I operate. If you guys didn't know, now you know.
You should know by now.
Yeah, we
If
knew.
you didn't
We
listen
got
to
like
your first episode,
13
you should probably know that.
Yeah.
Again, there's a lot to love about this movie, but yeah, some of the acting, some of the dialogue, and could leave some to be desired. I don't know. It wouldn't. This is already a great film. Please watch this film if you haven't seen this film.
Yeah, I mean, I fell in love with the effects, and like that was everything that I wanted, and I was happy with anything. It could have been paint drying if they would have just every 5-10 minutes put those effects in there. I've been like, this is a great movie. Did you watch that paint dry?
You would have preferred if this was a storyboard or just a graphic novel.
I think that if this was a storyboard or a graphic novel, like, you know, I'm sure there's plenty out there.
I bet you there is a graphic novel.
Absolutely. And this is something that I would definitely buy. I'm interested in getting like the novella and reading that. Like these are the types of things that I fall in love with. I go like super deep and like, yeah, I want that graphic novel of this badly.
Do we need to cover McCready's hat at all or no?
Yes.
The Yosemite Sam hat?
Yeah, what about it?
Yosemite Sam?
Yeah.
You
You,
know,
like it or not?
I love it. Ironically, it's such
He's a helicopter.
He's a helicopter pilot. Yes, let's get a big brimmed hat.
It's like riding a horse.
But it also looks like it was pulled out of a box. Like all four corners are like straight up. Like it couldn't fit in the box. It shifted.
You know what? That hat actually inspired Tarantino to make Hateful Eight.
Did it?
Okay,
Yeah.
so there's a lot of correlation between this film and Hateful Eight, and it goes beyond the hat, and it goes beyond
Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell.
Correct, yeah.
So, okay, I've done this a couple times. I'm going to do it at least 2 more times.
Talk
I'm
about
gonna,
Cop and a Half?
I'm going to gush. I'm going to gush here. Sound? What do you guys think of the soundtrack?
Okay. Usually, I'm a sucker for strings. Period. Like I love it, especially in a horror movie. And I don't think it was bad, but it didn't do a whole lot for me personally, which is weird because normally something like that would. I think it was well executed. I think it built some tension at certain parts, but
That shit was great. You didn't
I
love
liked
it?
it. I liked the score.
I liked it. So for me, I'm a big Carpenter fan. How dare I say that, having just watched the thing for the first time? But I'm a big Carpenter fan, and equal to his movies, honestly, what I love is his soundtracks. And when I was watching the opening credits for this, I had this weird moment of being both incredibly let down to learn that Carpenter didn't do the soundtrack for this film, and followed immediately by elation because. And I must have known this in my research because I got really into this guy like a couple years ago. And this is the soundtrack was done by my favorite like soundtrack composer ever. And you know what? Fuck you, John Williams. And John Carpenter's right up there too. But yeah, this is Ennio
Yeah,
Morricone.
fuck John Carpenter.
No. But Ennio Morricone did this, and obviously you guys know, or maybe you don't, but he's responsible for the soundtracks of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. He also did, you go ahead and correct my improper French enunciation here, but Cage Acfole, I don't know. The Birdcage, the original Birdcage. He did the soundtrack there. Cinema Paradiso, Once Upon a Time in America, Untouchable, Bugsy. Maybe the Elmers, the more astute Elmers
Never
might
heard
know
of
him
movies.
from. He did The
Movie about a
Exorcist 2.
bird?
He did the Exorcist 2 soundtrack, and he also did. I know Rob's a big fan of Dario Argento's Animal trilogy. So Bird with Crystal Plumage, Cat of Nine Tails, Four Flies on Gray Velvet. I mean, this guy is the fucking man. And one of the movies that he did, because Tarantino is such a fan of Sergio Leone's Dollars trilogy, he brought Morricone out of like a semi-retirement to do the soundtrack for Hateful Eight. So that's where
That's the.
I was going there.
Didn't he also like go and track down the fucking German-made lenses for cameras that they used to shoot Ben-Hur or some shit as well for that
he's a nerd
movie?
like that.
Yeah.
And he's always trying to tip his hat and do some homages. And I have to tell you, I'm a fan of Tarantino, I think, and I was a real big fan of him when I was younger. But I never saw fucking Hateful Eight. I didn't see his most recent movie either, whatever, Los
I saw it in
Angeles, Once Upon a
theaters.
Time in L.A. Is that what it's called?
Once Upon a Time in
Hollywood.
Hollywood, which I haven't
Hollywood?
seen.
I
But
Yeah, I
never,
haven't seen that.
I never saw a Hateful Eight, but
I've heard a lot of people hate it.
I still am a very big Tarantino fan. We
That's
won't get into that, but Kill Bill
That's okay.
Volume
We
1
could do
and
a whole
2.
podcast on
we
that.
could.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But
Maybe
yeah,
we will one day.
maybe we will. We'll do a Hostel review, and then we could talk about him because he's an executive producer on
Fuck
that.
yeah,
and
dude.
we
I
could
love
just
Hostel.
we could put him in for 20-minute rants that I'm known for. But yeah, Ennio Morricone did the soundtrack here. I thought it was pretty good. I didn't think it was up to the standard of some of the other films that I've mentioned that he had worked on. I thought that they were definitely trying to recreate that like Jaws type of or even like Friday the 13th. Like type of shit. Like anytime the thing is like somewhere on screen and you don't know where he is.
Oh yeah, the
like-
insecty noise stuff.
No, the insecty noise stuff too, but they also had this little like percussive
gotcha,
toot, like the two
Like a
beat.
theme song.
Yeah, I mean you could call it that, but just specifically that percussive beat. It's not in that title sequence or anything. Don't sit here and fucking smirk at me like that. Yeah, I don't know. That was cool to me that he did it, but it wasn't his best work, for my 2 cents.
You gonna rate it?
You want me to rate the film?
Do we have
we
anything else
there?
you want to touch
Yeah,
I'll
we
rate
can
the
get
film.
Yeah, we can get into our final reviews.
Okay. Well, before we do that, I got some more tidbits because I'm such a big.
Why did you look at us?
Elvira
Come
fan.
on.
I'm such a big Elvira fan. Fun fact: this film had a special opening premiere at Hollywood Pacific Theater, hosted by Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. World premiere, hosted by Elvira. I just want to say, check out her new special on Shudder. But she's back. The MOD, baby. Yours cruelly. I love you, Cassandra Peterson. If you ever hear this,
You listening?
thank you for everything.
Yeah, she's
She might be an Elmer.
If she's an
probably
Elmer, I
is.
can quit today.
could die happy.
Dude, she's the best. She honestly is one of the things that got me so obsessed with horror. I know that sounds silly, but like I grew up on the West Coast. My family is like big horror fans. They were in the LA market when she was doing Movie Macabre. They had like old VHSs of like Movie Macabre, and like you want to know why I love all these shitty ass B movies? It's
It's like the first time
I've
you busted a nut was still
no,
Elvira.
but yeah, but no. I've seen like a lot
No.
of like The House That Bled and shit like this, or like the Werewolf of Washington, hosted by Elvira, and I just thought it was so much fun. Like, she's just so good. And also
Would you-
Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, great movie. We gotta watch that. Elvira's Haunted Hills, come on.
Would you put her over B Cramp then?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, right on.
Elvira is number one with a bullet. As far as like
Fair
my
enough.
horror, like top women of
Pantheon.
my horror fandom, like Elvira, she's like I don't know, she's the inciting act. Like she really kicked it off for me. I don't even know where else to go with that. She's my favorite, and she premiered this movie.
You could do worse. That's for damn sure.
Dude, she's so cool.
Yeah.
She's such a fucking cool chick. And this movie critically underappreciated and like scrutinized at the time of its
Oh,
release.
yeah.
This did not become the classic until many years later.
Mhm.
And I think that some of the things that were said about this movie, that it was nihilistic and anti-authoritarian and gory, and like, yeah, it's 1982. Reagan's America would hate all of that. You know what I mean? And maybe it was the oversaturation of the genre. Like I said, you had all
I mean,
those
you had
movies come
Alien
out.
and Blade Runner, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that could distract, and also like you're competing with E.T. and Blade Runner. Like, I mean, those are not necessarily bad
competition.
films in their own right. Not even just from a sci-fi perspective, but like
E.T.'s
films.
a beloved film as a film. Blade Runner definitely more sci-fi, but still like a well-touted was well received at the time.
Yeah, but I mean, for me, special effects outstanding. I think some of the best practical effects I've ever seen, and it is a damn shame that it took me this long in my life of being such a big horror fan to give this film a first crack. I'm genuinely disappointed with myself. Super happy that you picked this one. Man, super happy that you picked this one. Acting a little like less than some of, I don't know, the genre's better examples. Characters not quite as fleshed out. We've talked about this, but damn it, I love this movie. The chest chomp. Dog head. Head spider. We didn't even talk about the head spider.
Oh,
Head
we didn't
spider.
talk
Oh
about
my
the-
God!
Head spider
Fucking
with
head
the-
You
spider,
gotta be
dude.
fucking kidding me.
Let's go
Ah,
back
that
to
was
the
a
head
great
spider.
line.
Such
You
a good
gotta
line.
be fucking kidding me.
I love they watch it scurry past because they're
And
so
then they just
dumbstruck.
fucking torch it.
Yeah.
God.
Fire, kill it with fire. That is the mantra
Yeah,
of this
another
film.
movie that just completely has no respect for the destructive power of a fucking flamethrower. Like, you're in a base.
Inside.
Like,
Yep.
you're just using this flamethrower when willy-nilly. And it says, like, the only thing shielding you from the elements of Antarctica.
There's obviously canisters of gasoline everywhere.
No shit.
There's explosives. There's gasoline. There's dynamite. There's kerosene. Like, oh my God.
Not to mention, like, a limited
Right to
food
blow.
supply and, like, the only source of shelter.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
But so one of the cool things about the movie that they did was they had a humidifier and they kept the temperatures to like sub-zero temperatures on set when they were filming in like some of the inside scenes because they didn't
Get
want
the
to like
breath.
mist down the beards and the facial hair because they had a feeling that it would come across as like too fake on screen. So they just
Yeah.
wanted moisture in the air, and you could really see there were scenes in here. Where I was
So
like,
much of Kurt Russell's beard and mustache like covered
it
in
looked
frost.
naturally frosted. Like I mean,
Yeah, it
I've
looked great.
lived in northern Minnesota, and this is an authentic like icy beard.
There's a point where they're like looking for McReady when he's like gone off, and they're like decided that he's the thing, and they won't. They're trying to like kill him basically, and he's got the dynamite, and he's kind of done up in makeup. Like he's got like kind of white and like dark under. He looks kind of like Beetlejuice in that scene, just a little bit.
Yeah, a sexy, rugged Beetlejuice, maybe.
Oh, are you saying the Beetlejuice isn't
pretty
sexy?
to be
Yep.
honest.
Come on,
Come on.
Maybe I should revisit it.
you should.
It's been a long time.
Really?
Yeah, it really has. I've honestly, whatever.
I
I'm just
mean-
not a big Tim Burton fan, so like, I know we've talked about this. I
Yeah.
prefer his animated stuff over his live action stuff, and most of his live action stuff I haven't seen recently, and when I saw it initially, I didn't love. I know, hot take. I know.
If we weren't watching so many movies this month, I would say you should watch it this week because it is really good.
It is really good, and I would not consider myself a Tim Burton fan.
No. Well, all right, let's
But-
get into the ratings because I'm going to talk about this film at length. I've really skipped over a lot of my notes for the sake of making this a little bit shorter
And our sakes.
than it already has been because fuck me. But great film, instant favorite film, honestly, for me, and at the absolute top of the heap for my horror films. I'm so happy that this was the first time I watched it and absolutely won't be the last time I watch it. A 93.5 because it's just a little bit
Wow.
better than Alien to me.
Really?
Love it. Loved this movie.
Damn.
Loved it.
I really like this movie too. I also cannot believe that I never watched this. Like I said, I felt like I knew enough about it from pop culture and stuff that I didn't need to, and I was so fucking wrong because I didn't know anything. But it was a lot of fun. I loved the setting. Obviously, the thing was great. There's a lot of good kills, a lot of good gore. All the morphs and stuff were fun. I really liked how everything in the whole movie was so monotone, like was so fucking just like black, white, and gray, that whenever you saw the thing, that huge mass of like blood and guts, it just fucking popped. It was great. It was like, it was there. I love the fucking dead dogs. You got to kill more animals in movies, but not for real. 84 from me.
Yeah. No, this is a great film. It's one of the classics for a reason. I can't really expand too much on what both you guys have said, both on its weak points and its very, very, very strong points. Love Kurt Russell. Just him in anything in this time period is just so much fun to watch, like no matter what the genre is. And the cosmic horror aspect, the sort of, I don't know, an inhuman, like it's an intelligent animal and so beyond your scope, and it's so gross and disgusting and dangerous. Such a good take. But I think even with the score I'm about to give, I feel like I'm weighting this. So I will give that caveat that I do have a big fondness for this movie. So I'll say an 8 out of 10.
A hard 8 or
Weak,
weak
solid,
8?
and strong.
Weak
Not
8.
hard, not soft. Not a soft 8, not a hard 8.
Okay, about 80. Yeah, about 82, 83.
Solid 8.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I think we all are pretty much in the same vein here, and it's not a surprise that like I'm going to score a little higher because it's a film for me. It does what I wanted. You know what I mean? Critically, probably nowhere near 93, but on the Michaelometer,
The Michaelometer.
it's fucking strong, baby.
Yeah, we're not here to be harsh critics.
Well, since you bring that up, you're going to ask
God.
me what we're going to watch next week, right?
Yeah, Michael's
we
hosting
wanna
next
know?
week. What fucking
You don't.
silent ass dumb shit are we watching?
It is a silent film,
Great.
and it's over 100 years old.
Is it?
Can't wait.
Oh, no.
If you, I feel like you have a couple guesses and one of them is going to be right, but we don't need
if
to
it's
do all
over
that.
100. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. If you want, go ahead and guess, but I don't think you'll get it.
It's not Nosferatu?
It's not Nosferatu.
Okay.
That turns
That's not
100 next
100
year.
years old.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
1922.
Fuck me. Sorry.
you fucking idiot.
Yeah, you are a fucking idiot.
No, what do we?
You know, some people would say that you weren't even horror fans until this week when you saw this film.
Some people
I
would
wouldn't
say
that, but some people might.
Whatever. What bullshit are we watching next week?
Why are you already like this?
You set us up. You can't.
Yeah,
you can't
I did set you up.
antagonize us and then be mad at us for reacting.
Okay, so this is the 1920 horror classic, widely considered one of the most important horror movies of all time, and a complete masterwork of set design. Of course, I am talking about The Cabinet of Dr.
Dr.
Caligari.
Caligari. I almost
Oh,
guessed
wow.
that too, but when he
I'm
said
surprised
you
you guys
wouldn't
did it.
guess.
Well, you didn't, so I was right. Anyway, the Elmers will be more than happy to hear us talk well more about this film
No,
than
they
any
won't.
talking happens in the film. And I'm excited. Have either of you seen this? I don't think you have.
No, absolutely not.
I always put this film in a box that I deem unnecessary, overwrought trash that I have no need to watch. But
Without any actual
I know that
understanding
this
or
is a
exposure to it.
massive classic. It's something that I've actually been meaning to watch.
Yeah.
Well, you're
Haxon-
welcome.
Haxon's one of the other ones
That
that
was
I've been
the
meaning
other
to watch.
film that I was considering watching. I had
And-
committed myself to doing something at least 100 years old.
Yep.
Haxon 1919. I think it
It's a good
is
year for film.
pretty much considered the first mockumentary.
I'd say it's more like a bunch of vignettes, right? Like,
Not necessarily. I mean, yeah, I guess, but there is an overall structure to the film.
horror fans oftentimes online put The Cabinet of Caligari at their top 5, and I don't doubt that it is a good film, maybe even a great film. I'm open to that. Trying to be open-minded here, Holmes. But I'm gonna have to leave my hang-ups at the door.
Well, I'll tell you one thing I know that you will like about it, and we will all appreciate based on our busy viewing schedule this month.
It's short.
It is fairly short. It's like 100 or not 100, excuse me. It's like an hour and 9 minutes or an hour and 17 minutes, something in that neighborhood. And I picked it because it's a little bit more well-known and a little bit more revered than Haxon, and it's shorter than Haxon. So that is why I went with it. I was going to subject you to an old film. I didn't want to make it. I considered doing Faust, which is like 2+ hours long.
Okay, I'd watch that, though.
It's so good. It is so good. F.W. Marneau, get the fuck out of here. But
Go.
never fear, because in 3
Go, Tate.
weeks, I will be picking another movie. And we are doing some horror homework for the month of Halloween. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I renamed October Halloween. So, Elmers, I'm going to say
Hashtag Halloween.
hashtag Halloween, hashtag Chromedor, hashtag Double Wet Mouth. And
Bird bath.
Bird bath.
Oh, yes, the last episode.
Yeah, one day you guys will be exposed to the vault, and we will unleash to you the review of Lawnmower Man.
Behind a paywall, of course.
Of course.
Oh, yeah, you're going to have to pay for that shit. It ain't free. You don't get to hear my hot takes on
Shit
Job.
ain't free.
Fuck. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in tonight. I'm saying thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Yeah, pull up with us, watch 2 films. Come on, watch 2 films. If you scared, don't come over here. 13 M, 13 M, 13